Okay, my friends, I want you to watch this. This is about Jeff Bridges and his fight with COVID and chemo at the same time. Now listen to this.
Then his wife opening up to people about the Oscar winner's harrowing health scare, battling COVID during his chemo treatments. Ariel Resniff is back with all the detail on Bridges' fight to survive. Good morning again, Ariel.
Good morning to you. Jeff Bridges revealing the combination of chemo and COVID nearly took his life. The actor saying after dancing with his mortality and a long stint in the hospital, he has now come out on the other side with new perspective. From his Oscar-winning performance in Crazy Heart,
We ought to go out and find some trouble to get into.
Yeah, big trouble.
to his iconic role as the Dude in the cult classic The Big Lebowski,
I'll be there, man.
Jeff Bridges is a master on screen. But now the 72-year-old star is opening up to People magazine about his behind-the-scenes health crisis, a nearly fatal bout with COVID while undergoing chemotherapy for lymphoma.
The COVID made my cancer look like nothing, man, because the chemo wiped out my immune system. You know, I had nothing to fight it. I had the kind of COVID where you can't breathe well, you know, so if I had to even roll over in bed, I couldn't do that without calling a nurse to help me with the oxygen.
Bridges, bedridden in the hospital, unsure he'd survive.
You know, I was pretty close to dying. My doctor was saying, Jeff, you gotta fight, man, you're not fighting. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I was in surrender mode.
But fight he did, and finally he recovered.
All right, now, when they say he recovered, he is no longer critically ill at this moment. Is he still in trouble? That is the question. And let's just finish it up.
Now he's embracing the future, grateful for the journey.
Love is the deal, you know. Love the gift that you're being given, you know. Love this, love this COVID. It teaches that we're all in this together. We're connected, man. Who would think, yeah, I'd love some cancer and give me a little dose of COVID. It really heightened my appreciation of life in a way that I hadn't experienced before.
He expresses that appreciation as only he can, and Bridges says he is feeling terrific. He says he still has his ups and downs, but he's soaking up all the good things in life, like his kids, his grandkids, and celebrating his 45th wedding anniversary with his wife. This week's issue of People magazine on newsstands nationwide today.
All right. He still has his ups and downs. Let's talk about those ups and downs. All right, I'm going to try to make this really simple. Jeff Bridges apparently was going through chemotherapy for melanoma, which is skin cancer, very, very deadly cancer. And they wipe out your immune system because they think your immune system is attacking you, and they just wipe it right out. Now, that left him totally vulnerable for any other types of infections. COVID got a hold of him just like that. And he's like he said, I was in surrender mode. That stuff just didn't knock your socks off. And the reason is, it goes in and attacks your collagens. And the collagens are the things that make your lungs open, and they're the rubbery parts in your lungs and your throat and your blood vessels and your heart and all that. They're the things that open and close. And they are being destroyed by the COVID. So he was in terrible shape on both accounts because he didn't have the correct bacteria in his gut. That's my claim, and I think we can prove this. And if he would get a fecal transplant, we would know one way or the other. And he's a celebrity, so this would hold some weight. The only people that hold any weight are celebrities. I'm not kidding you. You have to have somebody that is able to speak and be heard. That's the key. Nobody's heard unless they have some degree from Yale or Harvard and they say exactly what Yale or Harvard tells them to say. Otherwise, they are unheard, and this whole thing is a disaster, and we should have been taking probiotics right from the beginning for the COVID, because that's what the National Health Institute says. See, this just came out, May 22. Fecal transplant reverses hallmarks of aging. It reverses them. It makes you young if you're old, and it makes you old if you're young. It depends on which way you went with the transplant. All right, 6 of the 15 patients that they used these fecal transplants on had quite significant improvement. Now, why only 6 out of 15? I can tell you why. My opinion is they used stool from people that already had melanoma. They survived it, but they still were infected by it. They had melanoma. They're old people. It's old poop. And then they gave that to these people, and still 6 of them got better. Now, if they use young poop from young people right from day one that never had any kind of diseases, they were breastfed, they weren't given a lot of antibiotics, and they are completely healthy like athletes, you use that microbiome, and that person is almost assuredly going to get better. It's even the National Institute of Health, the same people that are talking about this, claim that the people with COVID should be doing it. Not in fecal transplants necessarily, but probiotics, which is basically the same thing, only much reduced. They didn't realize the hiding places that these bad bacteria can hide in. I have just figured this out. Well, not just me, but a lot of people have realized that it's hiding in the pockets, in the villi of the intestines, deep down inside. And then mucus covers it, and the drugs can't penetrate the mucus, so they live and they repopulate. And then you stay sick. By the way, they did a study with fecal transplants they took 15 patients. They did it wrong. I mean, I'm serious, they did it wrong. Here's what happened. They had 15 patients, and they weren't responding to the drugs that they want to give them to kill the melanoma. So they took patients that had survived the melanoma. Probably they were old people, had skin cancer, but survived. And they figure, oh, if we use a fecal transplant from them, that means that they are able to absorb these drugs and be cured. Well, 6 of them responded very favorably out of the 15. But guess what fecal transplant they used? From these old sick people. Instead of using young healthy transplants, they used old sick stuff. So they were just lucky that any of them survived. You have to use young transplants from young healthy individuals. No diseases, no antibiotics. They have to be breastfed from birth, and as little of antibiotics as possible, and plenty of probiotics. And their fecal stool samples can be used to repopulate another person's intestinal lining, the microbiome. And that will save their lives. Now listen to this. Just listen as carefully as your ears can hear. It says it's unlikely that a fecal transplant should do these things. However, scientists at Quadram Institute and the University of East Anglia have provided evidence from research in mice that transplanting fecal microbial from young into old mice can reverse the hallmarks of aging in the gut, eyes, and brain. That's pretty good. In the reverse experiment, microbes from aged mice introduced inflammation in the brain of young recipients and depleted a key protein required for normal vision. And it caused them to look like they're getting old. These findings show that gut microbes play a role in the regulating some of the detrimental effects of aging and open up the possibility of gut microbe-based therapies to control decline in later life and literally all diseases. All right, this is from the National Institute of Health. This is not Roger Spur saying these things. This is the National Institute of Health. The last time I posted this during the beginning of COVID and said probiotics seem to be help in prevention and treatment of COVID-19, which is exactly what National Institute of Health said, I got a strike, a real strike on my YouTube channel, and they told me if I started talking about it again, they would strike me again. Well, nobody's heard anything about probiotics because they've shut it up. But here's what the National Institute of Health said. Evidence supports probiotic role in regulating the immune system. That's the evidence, suggesting a definitive role for probiotics in viral infections. Definitive means a certain. Probiotic supplements could reduce the severity of COVID-19, morbidity, and mortality. Probiotics can inhibit the cytokine storms by simultaneously boosting the immunity and evading exaggerated adaptive immunity, which takes time to understand how do you deal with these things. Your body takes time to acquire resistance. But they're saying that the probiotics help through this. It's challenging to respond quickly to the viral onslaughts. Probiotics induce suppression of the inflammatory cytokine response may prevent both the severity and occurrence of acute respiratory distress syndrome. Exactly what Jeff Bridges was talking about, making probiotics an attractive adjunct. Then they go on, they say everybody should be taking them. It's a high risk and severely ill patients, frontline health workers, might limit the infection and flatten the COVID-19 curve if they were taking them. However, currently there's no random controlled trials. They're not even looking into it. They say, oh yeah, we're looking into it. Have you heard one word about taking probiotics to help with COVID? No, I haven't. And here was from the beginning of the pandemic in 2021, March of 2021, they were talking about this probiotics in prevention and treatment of COVID-19. I have thousands, well I have 150 something thousand people now, and I have not had anybody that I know of that said they got severely ill with COVID that was taking probiotics. I don't even think I know of anybody that did get COVID that is taking probiotics. Maybe some with very mild, but if you're taking them very regularly, I haven't heard really anybody complaining. And and I'm a pretty loud guy, so I ask, I say, please tell me, and I want to know now. Have you been taking probiotics? Have you been sick with COVID? Have you been extremely ill? How was it? Was it like a cold? Are you still having symptoms? Are you a long hauler? If you're taking probiotics and your microbiota is good, you should not be a long hauler. You should be able to overcome these attacks with your own immune system. And if you have the correct fecal transplant and a good microbiota, you're much less likely to get infected in the first place. But if you do, you are much less likely to be seriously infected. And I would love to have Jeff Bridges respond. And if you know him or know of anybody that does know him, please have him get in contact on this page. I'm going to put a note and say, please contact me. We'd love to see you become the face of this new research. This new research is life-saving. And he looks like he's gotten a pretty good appreciation for life. He looks pretty damn healthy to me. If he gets past this, I think he's got a bunch of good years to go. And they get better and better. With your eyes get better, your brain gets better, your thinking gets better, your attitude gets better, your skin gets better, everything in you gets better, because it's all being maintained now by the correct bacteria, which creates the enzymes and catalysts to break down the products, to either remove the bad stuff, because they have to do that, break it down and remove it, so you don't get toxified, or also they have to break down the good stuff to bring you in the good food to eat. Every single molecule that enters your body is interacted upon by bacteria, 100%. So if you don't have the bacteria there, it just comes and goes. And then you say, oh, I can't digest this. Oh, I can't tolerate that. Oh, I'm sick all the time. Oh, I don't feel good. Oh, my stomach's sore. Oh, I got acid reflux. Oh, I'm bloated. I got Crohn's. I got all kinds of colitis. It's all digestive. Hippocrates knew it, and we just laughed at it and figured, well, boy, we can make a ton of money with drugs. Well, the bacteria is the drugs. I don't want to say too much because I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you to take anything or don't take anything. I am a researcher. What the research tells me is that fecal microbial transplants have a beneficial effect and sometimes completely change the course of someone's life. Okay, I'm just going to ask Jeff Bridges to do one thing for us. He has a voice that will be heard. He's going back on Good Morning America to relate to them his experiences in another couple of weeks, it sounded like. When he does, I would love for him to be fully informed about these fecal transplants and to know about these microbiota replacements and how important it is and what it can do to save people's lives. That's all I'm asking. He doesn't have to make any claims or statements, and I'm not making any either. I'm just saying this is what the research looks like, but we need somebody to be able to speak and be heard. Doctors don't like to be talking about this because if anything whatsoever goes wrong, they figure they're going to get sued because they didn't do exactly what Yale or Harvard told them to do, even though it doesn't work. All these people are dying anyway. They're not getting better. They're getting long haul because they still have these bacterial problems. That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but somebody's going to have to look at it before they can make that statement stick, because my research says I'm not wrong.